Audra Yankton, empowerment and intuition coach, and this is Unveil You, the podcast where spirituality meets practicality to help you step fully into your power. Each episode, we'll talk about what it really means to align with your higher self, trust your inner knowing, and walk through life with grounded, soul-led confidence. Let's get into it. Welcome back, beautiful souls. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Melissa Byron, who is a wonderful, amazing female entrepreneur who is the founder of A Solo Women Traveling, which is a community where women who want to see the world don't have to do it alone. So what started as a blog in 2019 for her has become this beautiful, thriving space for connection, retreats, and adventures around the globe. And today we're going to have a really amazing conversation around authenticity and kind of the grit it takes to be a business owner and trust and spirit that gets you to your end goal. So with that, Melissa, I would love for you to give our listeners an intro of yourself really quick before we get into kind of our main topics.
Well, thanks for having me on, Audra. I'm excited to talk to everyone today about my journey with the solo women traveling. So, as you mentioned, I started the business in 2019, but I started solo traveling in 2009 based out of the fact that I couldn't find anyone to go. So, it was kind of out of more necessity than my choice to just travel alone. And throughout those travels, my life really completely changed from start to finish. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, totally relatable. I feel like also in the 2000s, like, were people really traveling abroad like they are now? Like, it was kind of like a different time for sure. So that makes a lot of sense. So going back then, so again, we're talking about you started blogging your travels in 2019. You were traveling for a whole 10 years before you started doing it at that point. So what inspired you to start blogging about this at that time?
I feel like a lot of people were just starting to ask me a lot more because, like, as you pointed out, like in the early 2000s or the late 2000s, 2010 and up, like people weren't traveling as much as they are today. And so when I started to get a lot more questions about where to go, what to see, what to do, I started thinking about maybe I should be putting this into a blog, not really like with any sort of plan to even really make it a business or anything.
Do you remember like your first blog post, like what it was about and like how were you feeling in that moment when you go through
Well,
that moment?
I know some of the first few. I know I started with Greece as a destination that I loved, and I loved it for solo traveling. And then I wrote just kind of like more of the like vulnerable posts about like why I was doing it and like the life changes I was experiencing by solo traveling.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So then what you shared with me earlier when we were talking that it took you a while to make money from blogging. I think there's kind of this like idea that, oh, if you stick with it in a few months, like this internet stuff, you'll start making money from it. But it took you a while, and which is awesome. You kept the faith and you kept going on that. So, like, fuel for my audience, then, what kept you going during those years when you were investing time and money and not seeing the returns during, and also how long did that go on for?
Oh God. When I started in 2019, I didn't make money for years, like
Yeah.
years. I think 2022 was the first year I actually made something that was like more than the expenses I had on the thing, right? So
Mm,
years. I kept going because I was stubborn in the sense I was like, I have something to say. I know I have something valuable. I just need to figure out like how to get it out there. And I was so naive in the beginning about what it would take and like it's a business there's all these strategies and I'm just kind of like no, it'll be fine, mine will be a really beautiful blog and people will find it and just like it because I have great recommendations, not knowing like how things need to be structured and all this stuff that really goes into it in order to be successful in blogging.
yeah, and I actually kind of have like more of like a spiritual question for you. Like we all talk about manifestation and that's really hot topic on TikTok. I
Yeah.
don't really subscribe to that kind of stuff. I'm like it's very personal to me, manifestation, and I think if you're taking it seriously, you'll know what I'm talking about. So, did you use any like typical manifestation practices to take your business from just kind of ground floor to up and running and making you money or anything spiritual that you did to kind of help with that process?
I definitely believe in manifestation and practice that myself. And the biggest shift I saw when I started to change the typical, I have a successful business and really feeling into that and doing all the things like writing down what that looks like. When I shifted it to being like, oh, a successful business, and I shifted it to I'm manifesting a positive impact. I wanted to
Mhm.
make a positive impact to the people that were finding the information that I was writing, to the people I was meeting. And
Mm,
the more aligned I felt with like just more of this community alignment of like the impact, then I actually started to see a shift. It was never the things that I would write down specifically and I'd do all the rituals and I would do all the, inner work to feel deserving for it. It was just, I feel like for me, I was really just not connected to what was going to be the thing, which was community and this
mhm.
positive impact.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense when I even think about like my own business. I went into this really intentionally like to serve a certain client, like basically a past version of myself that I want to be the person that I didn't have. And I eventually kind of made it to the other side spiritually of like, oh, okay, like I've kind of figured this stuff out. But like no, running your business in really pure intent, I have found talking to entrepreneurs like yourself, it's the key commonality between everything. Is like if you just go into stuff because you want to make money, or you're kind of coming from this lack mentality as they call it, there really the universe will not meet you halfway there. So really interesting that, yeah, you're one of, I don't know, a dozen people I've talked to now that says that too. So tip for our listeners, if you ever want to be successful with something, make sure you were rooting it in good pure intent of like whatever that is. Like greed and money won't really get you very far. So that's definitely something I need to break down in a future episode, is manifestation. But yeah, thanks for touching on that. I know that was kind of like a wild card question. But yeah, so I guess kind of that segues into my next question for you, which was the biggest changes happened. You told me when you started running into your authenticity, kind of more of this mission-based, like community type business. You started, I guess, putting roots into that. What did that look like for you, and like practically, and how did it shift your business, even in ways outside of money?
I mean, I guess the first way to start answering that would just be to say that, it happened suddenly where I just had this like moment of like, okay, it was like being always solo, right? Everything was, my business is even called a solo woman traveling. It's solo, solo, solo. But
Hmm.
that really wasn't who I am fully. I mean, I'm very capable of being on my own and I've grown so much. And I really implore everyone to give solo travel a chance because it's just so transformative. But it wasn't enough. And all of a sudden, when I realized, like, maybe I should just host group travel, like, maybe I should be opening myself up and connecting with my audience, then that's kind of how things started to change. And I noticed it pretty soon after I started having these offerings that then my articles were kind of starting to rank, higher. And like the business just started to come together in a way that I definitely didn't expect or plan.
Yeah, thank you for that. And if you can think back to, some of the first times that you were shifting from solo to community, like if you could be raw and honest for a second, like how'd that make you feel? Was that scary to like kind of change your business? What were you going through mentally?
Well, I definitely, through the first two trips, I really didn't know if it was going to be something I could actually do, right? Because it was like a big undertaking to just start doing this. I had no real experience other than I'm a professional traveler in a sense of like, of course, I can plan a really good trip and I've been through so many. So it was going to be, the logistics of it was going to be fine. But doing it on such a large scale and having like 11 or nine people like with me, like, in another country that they've never been to is definitely a challenge. And it was definitely a lot of like learning. And I definitely had to like, overcome that like imposter syndrome where I felt like, can I really do this? And I think it honestly came at the right time. If I were any younger, I don't know that I would have handled it as well. I think all the life lessons that I've had thus far had actually prepared me. I don't think it could have come at any other time.
I think you're touching on the beautiful point of divine timing. And I'm a very type A person, so I can relate to that a lot of like wanting something now. Like, oh, I've prepped for it. I think anyway, in my human brain, I'm like, oh, I've done all the stuff. It's like it's time, it's go time, universe. Like where's this thing that I'm asking for? But then it's like when I finally get it, it'll be like much later than I wanted it to be. But then like what you said, it's like I always look back and I can see, oh, actually, that was the perfect timing because if the universe gave me this when I thought I was ready, I wasn't actually ready for it though, I wouldn't be able to hold it. You know, that's what they say also in manifestation practices is you have to be able to hold the thing that you're calling in, and more often than not, we don't really realize that maybe we're not able to where we're at to actually hold the thing the universe is trying to give us. So, yeah, that's really awesome. And so, speaking of things being kind of scary, traveling alone, starting a business, these are some things that can be really scary. And I want to know how facing fear shaped you and how can it actually make like all of us stronger to face our fears?
Well, using the example of travel
Mhm.
to kind of like break that down, the best thing about being on like a solo trip is you are faced with all the challenges that come up, by yourself and just these even small things of like got on the wrong train, got, to a destination I wasn't meant to go to, and I had to figure that out to get back, etc. Those situations just once they're done and once you're over the fear of like I'm in a strange place, they'll start to really, interject like inner confidence that maybe, you weren't thinking of. Like, I know when I traveled the very first time solo to Italy, I was really excited, just be in Italy, see the sights, all the things, eat the food. But when I got back from that trip, it was really like the person I kind of became after the trip, after being in a foreign place, not knowing anybody. And at this time, I didn't even have a smartphone. It was a flip phone.
I
So
remember
so
those
long
days.
ago.
I've thought
Yeah.
about that a lot before. I'm like, man, people have been doing traveling. Like, think of like the 80s before they even had flip phones. I'm like, and they
Yeah.
had, big maps. I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't think I was cut out to live in that time and travel. Sorry to interrupt, but yes, I've also like had those thoughts before. Like, man, people back in the day were true pioneers, right?
How did they do it?
I know.
Yeah, but even now, there's always a travel, no, I wouldn't say mishap on every single trip, but there's always something that maybe just didn't go as you thought it was going to go. And
Yep.
it's just like this opportunity for growth and a lesson to see your own resilience. And it's been, like humbling. And I've just grown so much from this experience of doing it for, I guess, what is 15-ish years now.
Yeah, yeah. And do you find that at the beginning when you traveled, were you more like structured? Because I've noticed from like your website and your business, it's very lax. Like the stuff you and the women do, it's very like you might have a couple things during the day you have planned, but otherwise it's whatever it is you want to do, which that is my vacation style, by the way. I like to just go and I have no reservations, no plans. I just like follow my nose. It's kind of like an intuitive way you could say of vacationing. But yeah, I guess how has it evolved for you? Do you find that you got more lax over time?
Well, I think in the beginning, like the one thing I always have to take in consideration, because I consider myself like a foodie, is do I need a
Mm,
reservation? So the
that's
only
true.
reservations I would make were typically for things like restaurants, but I did like to have more of a free day where I could just, if I wanted to go into the church or the museum, I would. So it's kind of always been my style. I've learned to like double check things because I have made mistakes where I didn't make reservations for Anne Frank's house or something like that, and then
Yeah.
I couldn't go. So I've kind of like learned over the years to tweak it.
Have some of your favorite things that you've done traveling been those spontaneous things, or were they the planned things, or is it kind of a little of both? What would you say?
Well, I mean, the best part about the trips, always what I remembered the most was the people I met on those trips. And that was never really necessarily planned. Maybe it was on a walking tour or something like that. Like those are
Mm,
the moments that stand out the most, where, I met someone really cool and I've stayed in touch with them and it's just really broadened my whole, like, my life. I have friends around the world, and I think that's probably the coolest thing of all.
yeah, I think so. When I was in grad school, I compressed my timeline to fit it into 12 months, which was really insane. And as luck would have it, like I needed 3 credits or something like that to finish out by like this 12-month time frame. And I had this a study abroad that was available to me to go to Estonia for 10 days, and it was like we were going to go to a bread factory and like fish processing, like learn how to do fish processing. They're big on Baltic herring over there. Anyway, it was like all really kind of basic stuff. I'm like nothing difficult. Like, you go through grad school program and 11 months in and you're like, wow, like this is cake. This is nothing compared to everything I've been doing. But yeah, like the reason I bring this up is because I was by myself on the study abroad. I think there were like 10 other students or something. And yeah, I just remember like the fact that I went by myself, it forced me to be like more open and talk to people in ways that like I was even more introverted then than I am now. And just like being alone and it just kind of forces you to like make connections maybe you normally wouldn't. And I agree with you. You end up like bonding with people in ways that, you never thought would happen. It's like totally out of my character to like make a friend in a day, but like it's pretty funny when you're all thrown in the same situation how quickly you can make friendships, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, part of your message and part of why we're talking today is that showing the vulnerable and ugly parts of yourself and what was going on, it led to this beautiful outcome of your business. And so, I'm interested if you would share a moment of vulnerability that became a catalyst for your growth in this space.
I mean, I think I did share with you maybe that the one of the reasons I started doing this community stuff was because my dog passed away. And,
Mm,
that was just such a hard time for me. And I guess through like losing him, it also forced me to realize like, all right, I'm all by myself here because, I'm living in another country by myself. And that was just a time for me to reflect and say, maybe I should be building a community.
yeah, like
So,
that kind of really sad event of losing your best
mhm,
friend just kind of pushed you into the vulnerability there, it sounds like.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, I'm so sorry like that it came to that. I'm a animal lover myself. I've got two cats and a dog. So, yeah, I say all the time like my older cat, she's 10, and I tell my husband all the time, I don't know what I'm going to do without her. She's been with me since I was a college girl. So animals really they're catalysts for stuff. I actually find that it seems like every time I add an animal to my life too that something big is happening. I don't know. Have you gotten a pet since then?
I did get another dog.
You did?
So,
Did you
yeah,
happen to was your dog like did your dog come in at like kind of a funny time for you? Like did you feel like your life was changing?
well, I felt like when I decided to get him, I had been like just really, missing my dog, and I saw one in Paris as a Pomeranian, and
A
um,
A Parisian Pomeranian. I'm obsessed. Oh my gosh.
he's so cute. And so yeah, when I finally got to take him home, it was at the end of the second trip that I've ever done. So
Oh, okay. Oh,
that's
there you
what became
go.
it.
I've heard
Hmm.
this thing, and now that I've experienced it literally 3 times in my life now with added a cat, and then, a few years later added another cat, and then a few years later added a dog. But the reason I ask you that is because I have found every time I welcome a new animal into my life, it's like a signpost of like something big either happened for me or I was on like a new journey of like kind of self-discovery. It just always like I can go back to the year I got each animal and I can tell that it's almost like they're sent from above or something like that. And they meet you right when it's time. Like my dog, for example, I'm not saying I'm not a dog person. I grew up with dogs. Like my dad's a veterinarian. We always were around dogs and always had at least three, if not more. It's kind of crazy, but I love dogs, but I never saw myself necessarily getting one. In my adult years, but I'm in my 30s now, and I was like, well, I guess if there's a time to get a dog, and I have a daughter, so I'm like, it's probably now. And yeah, but I was, I guess, kind of like subconsciously open to it. And then my neighbor actually had a litter of poodles, and we share a courtyard, and there was 9 puppies, and I had to stare at those puppies out of my window for literally like 2 straight weeks. And I looked at my husband, and I was finally like, I have to have one of those dogs. Like, it's speaking to my soul. So anyway, then I go and I found our dog now that and picked her out and ended up getting her. But yeah, it was kind of at the beginning of this year when I started my business, and it's like kind of funny that it's almost like through my infancy in my business, I'm like having a puppy and going through that stuff with her. So we're almost like mirroring each other. So it's really
Yes.
interesting. I might do a deep dive on that actually at some point now that I'm talking about it, is animals as kind of these spiritual guardians in a sense. It's really interesting. So anyway, But when you talk about so authenticity, that's kind of like the main thing that brought you to me. And initially when we chatted was authenticity and how passionate both of us are about not only living in our authentic pathways, but helping other women do the same thing. So I want to know what authenticity really means to you, and how did you know you were out of alignment versus when you were truly living in your alignment, just so our audience can kind of understand the difference.
Well, I feel like, like I said a little bit earlier about the solo part, right?
Hmm.
How that didn't feel right. As much as I liked it, and I love my solo trips, and I've learned so much from my solo trips. As I mentioned, like everything that was great about them was the people I met like along the way. So that was kind of a clue that like, I feel like if I was starting to like make connections with, if I'm supposed to be like this solo traveler, successful solo traveler with a blog that's all about traveling by yourself, that would have just been like lining up, right? And it
Hmm.
wasn't for so many years. And I even had a friend tell me once, like, you know what I think your problem is? You don't really want to be alone. You don't really want to be a solo traveler. So how
Yeah.
can this actually work? And I
Hmm.
was so like, you're wrong. That's not true.
It's kind of
I
hard when that mirror is put right in front of your face
Yeah, I'm like
sometimes. Yeah.
because I love the articles I'm writing for everyone else about being in a destination by themselves and what they need to know about that destination, what they, where they should stay, all the things. So I was really passionate about that, but I couldn't deny that something wasn't connected. It just
Hmm.
wasn't connecting. Like I would have felt different. I would have been successful, I think, in what I was doing, and I would have felt just more fulfilled. But my fulfillment was coming when I was kind of connecting with others.
Hmm.
So my authentic self is happy to be of service, and the strength that I have to do these things, to travel, and just the choices I've made in my life. Others have really wanted to connect with me to get that guidance. And like that is where I feel like I can be of service and of helping in my most authentic self. So,
Absolutely. I can actually relate to that in a very recent way. So I initially, when I launched my business and offerings and website, it was like I was 99% there, I think, with my shadow work, you could say. I was like, I feel really good. This is vulnerable. I'm putting this out there. And like I was getting a little bit of movement, but not as much until one day I was working with a different coach who very first session she was looking through my website and she was like, I like this is beautiful. This looks great, but you're so spiritual. Like this, none of that is reflected in this. And I was like, I know, but like, I don't know. I think there's still part of me that was trying to be palatable to like the masses when
yeah.
really that's not what I came to this planet to do. I realize now. I'm real like nothing about who you are as a person is coincidental. Like if you are very spiritual by nature, you're probably meant to use some kind of spiritual gifts to help people in some way, shape, or form. And you and I have kind of talked a lot about astrology before, and I learned more about astrology, and turns out in my chart, it's like, oh, definitely I'm supposed to be using spiritual tools, like not just as like a side thing. Like this is something I'm supposed to be doing with people. Like this isn't just a passion project of mine. Like spirituality is really important. So yeah, ever since I've rebranded myself to like this empowerment and intuition coach, and my new website that's launching here quickly, probably by the time this posts, like my new website will actually be live. It incorporates a lot of spiritual elements, which now that I look at it, it's not scary like I thought it was going to be. I look at it and I'm like, this is me. This is what I do, and like this is what I bring to people. So, to your point, it kind of feels scary at first, or like, I don't know. I'm also really stubborn. I didn't want to admit that like my first go wasn't exactly right. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's just really important to like understand that like if you just follow your heart and your soul, and things will work out even if it seems kind of scary. So really glad you brought that up because I myself am recently going through that. So really exciting kind of transition time for me. What is something you have learned about yourself through the journey of from the time you started the blog to where you're at now?
Okay. Yes. I have a lot more patience or perseverance, really, because I definitely wasn't patient with all of the things that, with a website, when they would go wrong, I would definitely melt down. But my perseverance to keep going is something that I learned. Like this need to keep writing, I don't know where it really came from because
Mm.
Anyone else in my position in everyone in my life was like, I would have quit years ago. There's no way they could understand why I kept going. And honestly, I didn't either. It was just kind of like, well, I built this. I'm just going to keep moving forward with it, even though it's taking all my money and brings me to tears on a daily basis. Like, no joke, for years, it was really tough. And I don't want to discourage anyone from doing something. And I also, don't want you to keep going to do something, if it doesn't feel right. It was like, I guess I knew it was right. I guess I knew somewhere deep down, like it was gonna make some pivot and into something that like it is now. But it wasn't obvious at first.
I was gonna ask, so for example, like in my birth chart, it's is talking about astrology. It's actually like in the stars predicted that in order to like serve the people I'm here to serve, I actually had to go through the thing that I'm helping them go through now. Like I can't remember exactly what alignments or houses it was, but basically it's like my whole life purpose is to like go through the crap, basically, come out on the other side, like doing really well so that I can then help women that are like very similar to me. Is that something that's also in your chart? Is like the
Yes.
struggle was already like in the cards, basically?
Well, the struggle in my chart is, I have a Virgo stellium with my most challenging planet and my most positive planet. So I have that going for me. I have a lot happening in that house of service, even like, you know,
Same.
the what is it called? The lot of Eros, which has to do with like love and stuff. I mean, I
Mhm.
have like everything in this service area. And then in my 11th house of communities and groups, that's where I have Venus. And from what I have learned is that that's like it's about community and the Venus can signify like money, like that is one of the signs that is money. So I can make money through this modality of like groups and communities, and that's written in my chart. So, and I
Interesting.
have 10th house in Capricorn with my MC there. So I'm like the workhorse that it makes sense that I wouldn't give up on this business, even though it was taking me down for a while and really hard. I was like, I'm seeing this through. And so for anyone listening that is very versed in astrology, you'll understand everything I said, and it makes sense that I was destined to just keep going at this. And now that
Yeah.
I found my community, it feels like that's that clicking piece of, hosting these group tours.
Yeah, isn't that so funny? Like if for and actually so I will say I'm actually going through a boot camp right now. It's actually going to start here soon, but I've done a lot of kind of like hobby astrology, we'll call it, and then I worked with an astrologer for a little bit and kind of learned a lot about it. And now I'm going to do a boot camp specifically geared around like basically reading natal charts. So that is something anybody that wants to work with me can look forward to starting beginning of November. I'll actually have like official training on like how to read your birth chart because wow, had I started my life with knowing how to read my birth chart, I think I would have had a lot less like inner like you're still gonna have struggle, right? It's not like it gets rid of the struggle, but it just helps you understand like all these timed events that happen in your life. Like, oh, I'm not just going crazy. Like this was actually like a predestined thing. And it's like, oh, like it really helps you understand parts of yourself too. Like my whole life it's like, oh, Audra, you're so stubborn. Like it's just you're so hard-headed, you're so stubborn. Well, guess what's in my chart? To be
Yes,
stubborn and hard-headed. So
born this way. Sorry.
exactly. Literally, I know now I can go to my family and be like, see, I was born like this. And it's funny, my daughter now, I looked at some things on her birth chart and seeing some similar themes of my life, like seeing I guess like her chart has some very like big rocks you could say that are like very similar to mine. I'm like, ooh, I can tell some things that are gonna go on for you. Her hard-headedness, it's already coming out. She's only two, help me, So yeah, anyway, astrology is just a really, really cool tool. And I think I didn't see it for the science that it is until literally just this year. Like I thought
Yeah.
it was as good as like 17 magazines saying like, oh, you're an Aquarius, so you're gonna find love this month. Like, no, that is so couldn't be further from what astrology is. It's like I have a master's of science and a bachelor's of science. Like I can call myself a scientist. Like I am literally a researcher. Like this is real science, guys. Like astrology is real science. So anyway, I'm really excited. Speaking of spiritual tools that I could be offering, right? That is something I will now be offering with my sessions is kind of like that. at request. I guess if you don't want anything to do with it, that is totally fine. But I find a lot of value in that. And I feel like it would be a huge disservice to my clients to not set them up for success and just read what's going on in the chart. Because once you know how to read it, you can go back to it for the rest of your life. So it's really exciting. Um, well, anyway, Melissa, this has been a really exciting conversation with you about your business and living in authenticity. I love it so much. And I always love to leave my listeners with practical tools. It's in my chart to be practical, haha. But seriously, even before I knew that, I've been a very practical person. But if you could leave our listeners with one practical tool or lesson that you use to embrace your authenticity and follow your own path, what would that be?
I would say take yourself to dinner. Like take
Oh,
yourself on a trip. Like it doesn't have to be over, seas. It can be to the next town over, but like get yourself alone and just experience that. Like check in with yourself. I find that even like a weekend away, a couple towns over can really bring up, give you some clarity and help you, figure out like what's next for you or to connect with your own authenticity.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I think that's beautiful. I actually remember, was I in grad school? It might have even been after I was married for the first time, like traveling on my own for like a work trip or something. I had to do that. I had to take myself to dinner. And I remember, I don't know why, but it's been like this theme throughout my life. I hate to eat by myself. I don't know why. Even in college, I hated to do it. And I had to actually work through that. That's a like kind of a strange thing to hate. But I will agree with you. The first time I ever went to eat by myself at a restaurant, it was like a nicer place than the hotel I was staying at. It was so empowering. I literally was like, here I am facing my fear that I thought I could never do, and for what I'm not entirely sure, but it was very intimidating to me. And I think, yeah, if you're fearful of anything kind of low key like that, go do it, right? Like
Yeah.
it, what do you have to lose? Like literally no one even pays attention to you. That's my
No,
experience. Like you're just there having a meal. Like it's no big deal. So anyway, well, Melissa, thank you so much for sharing your story and being vulnerable with us today. And I just want to say what really stands out in your journey, even from this conversation, the other conversations we have, is how travel became more than just you seeing the world. It was like a mirror for you. And by facing your fear, you discovered your strength. And then by showing your vulnerabilities, you created this beautiful business. So, and just for my audience, like by rooting into your authenticity, you can build anything you want to build. And just like Melissa here, who built not just a business, but this community where women can grow together and learn together and become, better versions of themselves, live in higher, better alignment, you can say. So thank you so much. And so for anybody also that wants to work with Melissa or, go on one of these trips that she has a beautiful, beautiful website that has all the information you need. She's got her blog that is linked to her website, and we will be sharing all of the information for you to get in touch with Melissa in the show notes, should you want to look at that. But definitely, she's got some really exciting stuff coming up. And those of you who are feeling unsure about traveling by yourself and you want to do it, 10 out of 10 recommend that this platform Melissa's built is amazing. So thank you so much, Melissa. I hope you enjoyed this, and it was really great speaking with you today. Thanks again.
thank you.